Coming up on Network Africa, death toll from South Africa rainstorm continues to rise. Drone strikes target Wagner base in Libya. Plus UK government to appeal ruling against Rwanda asylum deal. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Joke Rogers here in Lagos. Let's start off in South Africa, where there's an update on the flood situation and tornado. The incident in South Africa's KwaZulu-Natal province has now claimed 7 lives, and there are fears that the death toll will rise. The body of a woman in her 20s and a teenage girl are the latest to be retrieved from a canal in the city of Durban. Provincial authorities say at least 70 homes have been destroyed and more than 150 people left homeless. Many areas in the southeastern parts of the province are recovering from heavy rains and storms that hit earlier in the week. Disaster management teams are still assessing the impacts of the flood disaster. Let's get more on this. We're joined by our South Africa Bureau Chief, Betty Dibia. Betty joins us virtually from Johannesburg in South Africa. Hello, Betty.
Hello, Joke. Nice to see you.
Yeah, so is the storm over? Tell us the state of things there at the moment.
Well, things are calmer, but there is a lot of devastation. Not quite to the level that we saw in April last year. Remember, we brought you the pictures of the persistent rain that washed off a lot of areas in KwaZulu-Natal. In this case, the strong wind event, not quite a tornado. I think the weather people called it a land spout or micro tornado, microburst. They've called it all sorts of names except a major tornado because of the elements of its formation. But it's left a lot of infrastructural damage. Now the death toll has risen to 7. Some people, I understand, are missing. Today, one of the volunteers, because a lot of the emergency services, private and government-owned, are working in several areas that have been affected. It's mainly the Nanda area of eThekwini. That's where you have Durban. A man was rescued. His car had been washed off, and he climbed up a tree and had been there and was now rescued by a body called the Search and Rescue Institute. It's private and it's all volunteers. We heard of a herdsman who was washed off. His cows managed to survive, I think some of them, but he was washed away. But generally, the weather is calmer, but there's a lot of devastation, and there are a lot of people who have been rendered homeless as we speak. Infrastructural damage, and then roads washed off as well.
Right, is this a yearly occurrence in KwaZulu-Natal? I heard you just make reference now to, the sorry pictures you brought us last year in April where you said, many areas were washed away. Is this something that happens every year?
Well, more or less, but the levels of devastation is different. I know that earlier in the year, there was also a warning by the Weather Service. And then earlier this month, I think the 8th or 4th of June, we had a similar occurrence in the Western Cape where you had floods as well. I think 2 people died, a lot of devastation as well. Some communities, an area called Citrusdal, a lot of farmers in such areas were cut off because their roads were washed off. Mop-up was just going on, and then this happened. There's still more warnings from the Weather Service. In the case of the Western Cape, they're warning about strong winds in KwaZulu-Natal as well, the Weather Service. So South Africa experiences a lot. In KwaZulu-Natal, you have a lot of mountains. And then the planning is also a problem. Community living planning, it's a problem as well. And that showed so openly in the case of last year, April, when many areas were washed away. Many people were buried. Many people got lost, and the land just gave way under their houses. Some building on the riverbeds. The houses that we went to, a house just broke in 2 pieces. that house was almost under a bridge. So there are different reasons, but it happens in South Africa as we speak. There's snow going on in the Eastern Cape, which also experienced a level of flooding as well. So we're having a mixed bag of inclement weather in the country. That happens here and there. It's not very uncommon.
Right. And is there any kind of reprieve for the people who have lost their homes and their means of livelihood? About 150 of them, you said.
You mean relief?
Relief, for them. Yeah.
Relief, yeah. Well, the government is promising. Then you still have the backlog of people from last year who are still saying they're living in conditions that they don't want to keep living in. But the Premier of KwaZulu-Natal, Mrs. Nomsa Dube-Ncube, has visited some of the affected communities and has talked about temporary accommodation. At least people have to stay off the rain. Although it's not raining at the moment, but a temporary accommodation and then all other things will follow. I know that there are some private bodies as well trying to help affected communities, but that's as far as it goes. Interestingly, the President Cyril Ramaphosa is in KwaZulu-Natal at the moment holding what they call an imbizo. It's a community meeting. All that is geared towards the next year's election under the ANC. Probably tomorrow he may visit some of the community members, but we have the affected communities, but we haven't been told that. Right now he's listening to the concerns of a district called Utugela district, where he's hearing from the people firsthand on their own concerns about service delivery or delivery of social amenities, social services in their area. Maybe that will come up. We don't know yet. That meeting is going on, and probably today or tomorrow, probably, or hopefully, he will visit the affected communities in KwaZulu-Natal. But he is there right now meeting other community members on their own issues.
Betty, thank you for your time, and thank you for giving us an update on that situation in KwaZulu-Natal.
Thank you very much.
Let's move on. Drone strikes of unknown origin struck an air base in eastern Libya where mercenaries from the Russian paramilitary group Wagner are believed to be stationed. A military source who wants to remain anonymous says the impacts which occurred last night did not claim any lives. Libya has been in the grip of a major political crisis since the fall of Muammar Gaddafi's regime in 2011, undermined by divisions between East and West and foreign interference. From April 2019 to June 2020, Khalifa Haftar, the strongman of the eastern Libya, used Chadian, Sudanese, Nigerian and Syrian fighters, but above all mercenaries from Wagner in his failed attempt to seize the capital, Tripoli. Survivors of a boat disaster that likely killed hundreds of migrants near Greece have given accounts of traffickers in North Africa cramming them into a clapped-out fishing trawler. They recount hellish conditions above and below deck with no food or water. Some say the tragic end when it came was precipitated by the actions of the Greek Coast Guard. They say that a doomed attempt to tow the overloaded trawler caused the vessel to capsize in the early hours of June 14. Moreover, a disastrous Coast Guard towing attempt was recounted in 6 of the 9 statements from survivors submitted to Greek judicial officers investigating the cause of the tragedy. The UK government is set to challenge a British court ruling that the plan to send asylum seekers on a one-way trip to Rwanda is unlawful. The court ruling, which was given on Thursday, delivered a blow to the Conservative administration's pledge to stop migrants making risky journeys across the English Channel. In a split 2-1 ruling, 3 Court of Appeal judges said Rwanda could not be considered a safe third country where migrants from any country could be sent. The government has until July the 6th to lodge an appeal. In 2022, children continue to be disproportionately affected by armed conflict. And this is according to the United Nations, which verified over 27,000 grave violations impacting close to 19,000 boys and girls in 24 country situations. Briefing journalists in New York on the annual report of children and armed conflict, Special Representative of the Secretary General for Children and Armed Conflict, Virginia Gamba, said it reinforces the importance of working on the prevention of grave violations and the provision of holistic reintegration support for all children affected by conflict. Tanzania has lifted a ban on nighttime upcountry bus travel that was imposed decades ago. The changes come after the government considered the views of stakeholders in the transport sector, as well as improvement in infrastructure and security. The ban was imposed in the 1990s following a rise in road accidents and hijacking of buses. The lifting of the ban, which is expected to stimulate growth in the transport sector, has been welcomed by the Association of Tanzanian Bus Owners. And still to come on Network Africa. Nigerian artist makes his paintings interactive using augmented reality. That's in a moment. A young Nigerian woman, Ifeoma Amuche, has emerged the best graduating student at Southwest University, Chongqing, China. Amuche shone above more than 9,500 students, and as a result of her great feat, was voted valedictorian on behalf of all the international students. She made her speech in Chinese. Well, joining us on the program from China, speaking not in Chinese this time, in English, is Ifeoma. Hello, Ifeoma. Great to see you.
Hello.
Hi.
Nice to see you.
Yes, and congratulations. It's no mean feat to be the best student when going up against so many others, especially in a foreign country. How does this feel?
Thank you so much. I was overwhelmed to be selected as the representative of international students in my school. So to be able to be on that stage on that day, the 22nd of June, that was very amazing.
What were your impressions of China before you got there, and how has this changed, if it has?
Okay, before I came to China, I heard people saying Chinese people eat frogs, they eat snakes, they eat lizards, and also they can fly. Everybody can do kung fu, but actually it's totally different. Yeah, some parts of China, of course, they eat frogs, and not all parts of China, yes, but not all Chinese know how to do kung fu, and not all Chinese fly. So it's not like they fly, it's just movie trick. It's film trick. So I think this aspect actually changed.
All right, so why did you decide to go to China as an international student?
Okay, I studied Chinese back then in Federal Polytechnical while as a student of Federal Polytechnical, yes. I was combining my departmental course and Chinese because I found interest and I picked interest in Chinese when I was still a kid. So I was lucky enough to see that Federal Polytechnical has this course, not like a departmental course, but just an extracurricular activity which you can do if you are interested in it. So I picked up interest in Chinese, studied Chinese, and decided to go to China to learn more of their culture and their way of thinking. Yeah.
And your family, they must be proud of you. What have they said about this feat of yours? What's their reaction?
They were very happy, especially my mom. She was overwhelmed because she hardly believed that was her child up there at the stage speaking, addressing 9,500 people. So they were all happy, I would say.
And what did you study? What made you, what did you emerge as the best graduating student?
Okay, I studied Chinese language and literature, and
Okay.
two, thousands of 9,500 plus graduating students, and I was one of the best graduating students. And my Mandarin is very outstanding, so my school and my department picked me to represent all the international graduating students to give a speech on our graduation ceremony.
And okay, so let me in on this. As I said, it's good to see you in English. Could you tell me, I'm glad to be here. Say it in Mandarin. Let me just listen to that. I'm glad. Sorry?
很高兴能在这里接受你的采访。
Oh, wow. Even I could not take that apart. All right, so what are your plans now? Are you coming back to Nigeria, or will you pursue things further in China?
I would say if there are better opportunities back home, I would like to come back home because I really miss Nigeria. I miss my people. But for now, if I'll be in China for now, if there aren't any opportunity back home, yes, I will be here pursuing more in this aspect.
Right, you started early. You said that you took an early interest in Mandarin when you were still in Nigeria, and you thought, okay, you know what, let me just go and pursue this further. And you decided to go to China for that. So what advice do you have for students hoping to pursue an education abroad?
Okay, I would say life in abroad is totally different from that back home. You will encounter moods, like switch of moods, mood swaps. When studying, maybe in the new environment, it's very difficult outside here, other than Nigeria, when you know you have your people close by, you have your parents, you have those who care for you, but here nobody knows you. So it's totally different and difficult to be in a new environment. But since I can make it, I believe you guys can also make it. So just come here, pursue what you came for, be serious with your studies, and of course, hard work will pay.
Right. Thank you, Foma. Thank you so much, and congratulations once again.
Thank you, Ma. Thank you so much.
Well, let's move on. One of the major reasons for the neglect of the nursing professions in Nigeria is medical tourism by those who can afford it. This is the view of the UK's first ever sickle cell nurse specialist, Professor Elizabeth Anyong. Dame Elizabeth believes if politicians, government officials and the elite predominantly patronize medical care in Nigeria, they would see the need to make the system appealing enough to keep specialist health workers like nurses from leaving the country. She was speaking with the channel's television's anchor, Ijoma Onyato.
If those in the positions of power in Nigeria their families were being treated by nurses in Nigeria, I'm talking about, not abroad, in Nigeria, then they would really realise the benefit of the nursing profession and that they need to be paid more, respected more. They need to look at everything, their education, their career prospects. What is it that is causing people to leave the country? Are they listening? Are they even talking to the nurses? Are they listening? You can talk to somebody, but are you listening to what they're telling you? Because you can easily find out why people are leaving. Then the big issue is, what are you going to do about it? Everybody is trying to do the best for themselves, for their families. It's up to the country of origin to say, do we value this profession? Why are they leaving? What can we do about it? It's up to the politicians.
To catch the full interview with Professor Dame Elizabeth Anyong, do watch Diaspora Network on Saturday at 7:30 p.m. right here on Channels Television. Well, still here in Nigeria, it's not uncommon to find several people walking around galleries in Lagos admiring paintings and other works of art. Now, there's an exciting new form of art in a space some consider saturated in the Nigerian market. Visual artists Olowife is the author of this form in Lagos, the commercial capital, where he uses augmented reality to breathe life into his art pieces. Take a look.
A man in a green and white collared jacket rocks his body to the tune of a flutist he is watching on his phone camera. Not too far from him, another one listens as a woman in a colorful hijab is praised by an admirer for her beauty, butterflies dancing around her head. These are visitors admiring visual artist Olowuife's creations at an art studio in Nigeria's commercial capital, Lagos.
The art was talking to me, like checking this art behind me, smoking a cigarette. Imagine your art smoking a cigarette, someone coming to light it up. You see some other arts playing the flute. You see another art, cars moving, like an artwork is having cars moving. You hear sounds like Oju Elegba, very iconic places in Lagos, you understand? You see another art all about Eco Bridge, Eco Market, sorry. You hear the whole noise, people selling and all of that. You see another iconic place like Makoko. You get, so it's an experience you need to experience.
Olowife stumbled on AR in 2020 during the COVID-19 pandemic. He got so fascinated with it and started thinking of ways to infuse it with his art.
I was fascinated by the technology. Then I thought about how do I infuse it in my artwork to stand out? Because basically we've been seeing the normal paint on canvas, we've been seeing people come up with different styles, different museum, different movements. I said, okay, let me create my own movement entirely. Do something unique, do something extraordinary. So, I decided to infuse the AR technology into my paintings, whereby I bring them to life.
AR is a technology that combines computer-based images on a screen with the real object or scene. Faith Omotayo is a first-time guest.
The artworks are very amazing. I was not expecting what I met. I was expecting something ordinary, but I met something extraordinary.
After painting, Olowu takes high-resolution photos of his works and uploads them to his computer using an AR software to transform the art into an experience that can include music, a voiceover, or 3D animation. As guests arrive, they use their smartphones to scan an already generated barcode that allows them to use their phone camera to watch the displayed artworks interact with them.
I've been getting so many positive comments. I have so many artists in my DM on IG asking me, oh, how do you make your paintings come to life and all? And I'm like, oh, you guys relax. I'm going to show you the way soon. Let me get my beard, let me get my footing and everything. So for the art lovers and the collectors, people will be able to see hidden messages, see hidden scripts, see hidden magic in my canvas.
AR is rapidly becoming more mainstream amid innovation and better integration onto mobile devices, with the AR gaming market expected to reach a value of almost $300 billion by 2023. For Ife, he does not have to explain the intentions behind his paintings, as the AR lets people see beyond what is on the canvas. Ife is looking forward to a time when he can make AR glasses available, so his guests will not only be limited to those who have access to internet-enabled smartphones.
That's Network Africa. Thank you for watching. I'm Joke Rogers.